to do today is inspire you guys to help me change the world. Okay, and we can do that because there are 40 million people worldwide that play this game. And the number one reason that people drop out is because they're hurt or they're injured. And so what I do is work with people to kind of alleviate that. And PGA Golf Professional, but also a mobility specialist, and we'll get into all that in a little bit here. So what you're going to learn is what is mobility, how you can use it, and why it's so important for what you need to do at your facilities. Okay, so we're going to talk about better golf from the inside out. And along the way, we're going to make you guys look like a rock star. Okay, all your members are going to love you, they're going to trust you. We're going to take what you do, the programs that you offer, the instruction that you provide, and really take it up a notch. Okay, so you might be wondering, who's this guy up here that wants to change the world? Well, I guess you could say I was born for this. Okay, here's a picture of me. This was the day I came home from the hospital. It's a little hard to see, but it actually says Golf Pro right on there on the polo. And it's just kind of serendipitous how everything's worked out over the years. And so to give you a little background about myself, I started playing golf when I was about 4 years old. My parents got me started, and back in the early 90s, at least in South Central Massachusetts, it was a little bit difficult to find a facility that would let somebody so young get out and play. But there was one place about 90 minutes away that my dad would drive me up to every weekend and kind of take a group lesson with all these other adults. And my favorite part was when the instructor came over and had his old VCR camera and would set it up and he'd film the swing, and then we'd all go back into a room and there'd be this old tube television. He'd have dry erase markers and he'd draw all the lines on there, and it's just fascinating. And so I've really taken to the game over the years. Nobody really pushed me to play, but it was something I was really passionate about. And then growing up, I started to play a little bit more competitively. Throughout high school, I was taking instruction from, I don't know if anybody knows Derek Cooper. He's one of the top instructors. He was out of Connecticut, he's now down in Texas, but he really made the game fun for me and kind of got me introduced to the idea that, hey, you can make a living off this and help other people play better golf and have a good time doing it. So I went down to Coastal Carolina University down in Myrtle Beach and had a great time down there, and was playing a lot of golf, and what I was noticing was I was starting to experience some back pain. Now, show of hands, how many of you have had back pain related to golf before? Awesome, so almost everybody. Right, and the thing is, with the exception of certain things like a traumatic event like a car accident or maybe collision from sports like football or maybe a surgery, most commonly we can alleviate back pain issues. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is give you some education on what mobility is and then how you can use it. And so growing up, I was a young teenage guy, didn't think much of it, and kind of had this notion that, hey, back pain is just part of what golf's all about. And so I was kind of just put it off on the back burner. I was playing good golf, it didn't really bother me too much, and I thought, hey, you know what, this is just part of the game. So how did I discover mobility? Well, one year on one of my internships, I was working out at a top resort in the country, and in between tee times, I was working with this one professional there who was really into fitness. And this was back in 2011. He was really into fitness, and if anybody knows somebody who's really into fitness, they won't stop talking about fitness. Right? So in between these tee times, when it was slow, we would talk about, well, what is fitness and why should you get stronger? He introduced me to nutrition, and then he introduced me to this thing that I had never heard of called mobility. And I was like, oh, you mean like stretching? He's like, kind of. Right? And so maybe you guys have that misdemeanor of, well, stretching or being flexible and mobility kind of all in this world, and there's a little bit more to it. So one day, we're just hanging out, and he shows me how I can release my hip flexors. And that was kind of the aha moment for me. Because I stood up, and all of a sudden, my pelvis started to tuck back under, and my back pain started to go away, and I was like, oh, what is this? I'd never experienced anything like it before. And so, at that moment, I was hooked. And I said, all right, now we're going to go down this rabbit hole. And I spent the rest of that summer learning as much as I could about the fitness and nutrition and mobility industries and just paving the road there. So up here on the screen are just a few resources that I've dived into, but there's so much more out there. And so once I got back from the internship, I decided, hey, let's join a CrossFit gym. Let's learn about this fitness thing. I saw Tiger Woods was lifting a lot of weights, and back then Rory hadn't really started lifting weights, but he was very up and coming. He was right before his transformation. I was like, well, if this is what the best players in the world are doing, and they're benefiting from it, why shouldn't I do the same? So over the years, I found myself working kind of two different worlds. I was in the fitness industry working with some really high-level athletes in the CrossFit world, and then I was also working in the golf industry teaching full-time. And so what I found out is working with these really high-level athletes, they're amazingly talented, and a lot of them have been athletes their whole life, but not many of them had that foundation of, well, what is mobility and why should I use it? So I started to develop mobility-based programs for all the members and for all the athletes. And I was inviting my golfers to come out to these programs as well. And what we found was these people were moving better, they were being safer and being less injured, and all my golfers were hitting the ball farther, straighter, with more consistency. And I was like, wait a second, there's something here. So fast forward a couple years, and my wife and I, we moved out to Portland, Oregon, where I consider the best city in the country. I'm very biased. But if you guys ever find yourself out there, great food, great beer, great coffee, great golf, great hiking, I mean, absolutely everything about it. So where I work right now is Red Tail Golf Center. We're just about 10 miles outside of Portland. We have 72 all-weather hitting stations, but what's really great is we have 15 full-time instructors, and between all of us, we give over 20,000 lessons every year. And there's a wide variety of who comes through the door. We have everybody from the young 4 or 5-year-olds just getting started. We have people that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s who just want to get back into the game, and everybody in between. And what I found is every person that comes through the door has a different starting point, they have different goals, and it's up to me and it's up to the other instructors to kind of educate them on what's the best course of action for them to take to meet those goals. And we as PGA professionals and the experts of the game, we need to give them the best information to get them moving safely and effectively and get them playing for longer. Right? Again, going back to the entry, the number one reason why people leave this game is that they're getting hurt. Okay? And if you can take somebody and you can expand their lifetime just a few years of playing this game longer, that's going to be more time they spend at your facility, that's more lessons they're going to take. And if you're able to do that for them and get them moving safer, they're going to be lifetime customers and they're going to refer all their friends. We'll get into that a little bit more down the road here. So we're talking about all this mobility, and you're probably wondering, well, what the heck is it? You already told me it's not really stretching, it's not really flexibility. So what is mobility? So I believe that mobility is being able to freely move your body while under control. And so there are 3 components that go along with this. And so we need to train each of these individually in sequence, but also in tandem. And the foundation of this is going to be range of motion. Above that, we have stability and strength, and then finally, the mind-body connection of the central nervous system and how we all tie that together. So how this is expressed is essentially 3 different areas in the body. We have our joints, we have our muscles, and we have our central nervous system. And the joints are the part of our body that allow us to move through planes of motion. The muscles produce stability and power. And then the central nervous system is kind of the hard drive behind it all that says, hey, body, do this. Let's contract these muscles. And then the muscles say, all right, I'm contracting. And the joints say, okay, I'm going to move. So let's start with the joints. And we're going to borrow a concept from physical therapist Greg Cook, who really popularized this kind of concept in the industry. And he put it really succinctly. He said, the body is made up of an alternating pattern of stable joints and mobile joints. And if that pattern is broken, pain and injury will follow. So what I mean by that, if we start down by the foot, our foot is made up of many, many different joints, but it's not a mobile joint. The purpose of the foot is to adapt to the ground that we're on and create stability. And as golf professionals, we know that ground force is really important to creating power in the golf swing. So if we have a good connection to the ground, awesome. Because we can't produce more power than our feet have connected to the ground. But then we go one step up and we get to the ankle. And the ankle is a very mobile joint, and it can move in all planes of direction and what it does is it allows the energy that we produce in our feet to be started to transfer up through the body. Our legs, just above hand, are massive power producers, and inside that leg we have the knee. And you might be thinking, well, Blaine, look, my knee, it's very mobile. It's going back and forth. I can move it with plenty of range of motion. Well, let me ask you this. What happens if the knee moves in a direction other than this? Right? And it seems like every week on SportsCenter we see some kind of highlight of somebody's getting their knee blown out, and it's not a good thing. So it allows the body to start producing that power. And this pattern will follow through the body. Mobile hip, stable lumbar spine, mobile thoracic spine, stable scapula, mobile neck, mobile shoulder, stable elbow, mobile wrist. Then it's not highlighted, but the hand is also because they're a stable portion. So what makes a mobile joint mobile is just that. It's able to move in multiple planes of direction. If you take something like your shoulder, it can move all over the place. It can move forward, back, side to side, it can twist, it can rotate. It's a very mobile joint. Same thing with the hips. Okay, now, if we have a restriction in a mobile joint, what happens is the stable joints try to take over and help out, and the body doesn't like that. So to paint a picture in your mind here, let's say you have a golfer with restricted hips. Okay? And maybe they go to make their backswing, but they're unable to properly load the hip the way that we need to. What will happen is we may see the player sway out of the way. We may see some loss of posture or some flat shoulder plane. We may see a reverse pivot. Or the worst one of all is what we call reverse spine angle. Now, just to make a little disclosure here, if any of you see reverse spine angle in your golfers, again, reverse spine angle, if you look at the seam down my shirt here, if that changes in the swing, that right there is the #1 cause of low back pain in golfers. It produces a massive amount of shearing force, especially on the lower spine. And so if you have anybody with bulging or herniated discs, or if you have any back problems yourself and you're wondering, well, why is it when I eat a bucket of balls I get sore the next day, it's probably because downstream of the hips and upstream of the thoracic spine don't have enough mobility, so the back's taking over and is taking the brunt of that load. So we may see all those faults on the backswing, but it has a downswing effect too. As soon as we're in this position here, we can't transfer the energy the way we need to into the golf ball. So we start to see the player come over the top, and they'll cast, and they'll scoop, they'll slide out of the way, they'll early extend. All these faults that we see in a golf lesson stem from poor mobility. And if we can educate our students and our members as to why they need to mobilize, they're going to play better golf, and they're going to feel better along the way. And when you can get your members and your students to feel better while shooting lower scores, that's when you become a rock star. So what causes joint dysfunction in the first place? Well, I hate to say it, but one of the big reasons is what we're doing right now. See, here's the thing. Our body is really good at adapting to stresses. That's how we've evolved to be here over thousands of years. Okay, now, in modern sense, let's say we go to the gym and we lift some weights. Okay, well, after we're done lifting those weights, we've stressed our body, and it says, okay, I'm going to grow back stronger than I was before so I can handle that stress. Well, that's a positive adaptation. But the thing is, not all adaptation is positive. So this position right here, we see this all the time, and maybe you experience it with what you do at work. And I can almost guarantee you that the majority of people that walk through your doors do, whether they're lawyers, whether they're accountants, whether they're still in school, sitting behind a desk for over 8 hours a day. And so what happens is our body will adapt to these positions. We see shoulders rounded forward, neck cocked back, hip flexors becoming short. And what happens is even if they go to the gym and they spend an hour, 2 hours a day working out, it's not going to alleviate the problems that we've adapted over our lifetime. And the most common imbalances that we're going to see are called lower cross syndrome and upper cross syndrome. And so if we start with lower cross syndrome, it's essentially what happens to the legs in that sitting position. See, we have some muscles that go from essentially the knee to the mid-back, and they connect through the pelvis along the way. And when we're in the sitting position, that length actually shortens. It physically adapts to being short. It's like, I don't want to hang out in a loose position. I need stability. So what happens is our hip flexors become very tight. What happens when our hip flexors become tight is this. I want you guys to think of this. If you've ever done a bicep curl before, what happens is we're able to move our hand toward our shoulder by contracting our bicep. But we're only able to do that because the opposite muscle group, or the tricep, turns off. Okay? If you were to contract your bicep, but the tricep doesn't turn off, nothing happens. It stays right in place. Now this is known as reciprocal inhibition, and we can't necessarily control it, but we can alleviate the root cause of it. So what happens is, tight hip flexors cause the opposite muscle group, or the glutes, to turn off. And the purpose of the glutes is to stabilize the pelvis so that we can hold our torso upright. Now, when the glutes are turned off and we can't support our torso, what happens? Our lower back will fire up and it'll say, all right, I'll take over. I got it today. You do your job tomorrow, but there is no tomorrow. Worse yet, when we bend over to play golf, even if our hip flexors are somewhat loose, our body still thinks they're tight. And you can test this. I want everybody to stand up real quick. And there's a great way to test to see how tight the hip flexors are. So if we stand up nice and tall, I want everybody to squeeze your butt nice and hard. And we should have a little bit of contraction right there. Now, it might be a little hard because we've been sitting, but if you squeeze your butt, it should be contracted. Now relax for a little. And I want everybody to bend over like you're going into golf posture. Now try to squeeze your butt. Right. Who felt it was a little bit harder? Absolutely. And we can't control that. So if our body thinks that these are tight, you guys can have a seat. Thank you so much. Then this turns on. And when the back is turned on, the abdominals of the core turns off. And when the abdominals are turned off, we can't safely transfer power out into the golf ball. Now in upper cross syndrome, we see the very same thing, just in a different area of the body. When we sit forward and our shoulders are rounded, whether we're typing, or talking, or texting, or just watching TV, long car rides, plane rides, you name it, the same thing happens. The chest muscles become nice and short, which leaves the back muscles long and weak. That causes the back of our neck and the top of our back to fire up, to hold our head in place, causing the front of our neck to turn off. So when you hear we carry our stress in our shoulders, that's exactly what it is. That stress is being held up in here, because otherwise our head becomes very, very heavy, and it's a big shearing force in the top of our back. So this leads us to our next point, which is stability. So what is stability? Because you might run into athletes that are super mobile, right? And that's a very low percentage of the population, but the majority of people we're going to work with have too much stability in the wrong areas. So everything that we do should be focused around having a neutral spine, because that's the safest position for it to be in. And a neutral spine doesn't mean straight up and down. There's actually some natural curvature to it. But the idea is this. If you think of the spine as a mast or a pole held up by guide wires, we want even tension on all these wires that are holding it up. And if some are tight and some are loose, you have all this uneven tension. It's starting to pull and try to warp the spine. And then we can't load it properly. And so what is a load? Well, there's a few different loads. You can have a compressionary load, such as, this is a 3-time world champion powerlifter, Lars Sternrecker, holds the American squat record at 408 pounds for her weight class, which is really impressive to see. But that would be considered a compressionary force and with a vertical load there. What we talk about in golf is a rotational force, or a torque force. And our spine is meant to handle these forces so long as it's in a neutral position to do so. But if it's not stable, if we don't have the proper position of it, and we hit a bad shot, we can impart 8 times of our body force and pressure into our back. And that's a lot of force. That's like getting hit by a car. Okay, and the last piece is the mind-body connection, or the central nervous system. And this is where our worlds overlap. Because there are some things that you can do in the gym to train your central nervous system, your proprioception, the functionality of motor control. But there's also things that we can do on the golf course. taking block practice and drills and refining the movement pattern. Because what will happen in this process is your athletes are going to start to move a little bit differently. And all of a sudden they're going to be like, hey, that position that I used to find up here, I don't feel that stretch anymore. But here's the thing, they can now move there in a better position. Okay? So paint a picture in your mind. How many of you have seen this before? Where we have a golfer that is swinging parallel, but it's only because they blow their hips out. And then we say, well, wait a second. Your hips are a little bit dysfunctional. We need to load those up. And oh, wait, now I can't get up to the top. But oh, and I do that. And it's this juggling act. They can't do it. But we're asking them to. There's something kind of in the way there. So my philosophy is simple. This is what I call the Mobilitas Method. Range of motion is our first priority. We need to move without restriction so that we can move safely. The stability portion is to hold the spine in place so that we can transfer energy and produce power. The mind-body connection is training the body to do it as efficiently, as fast as possible, and up top is the golf swing instruction. So here's the thing. I don't want to change what you teach and how you teach it. Mobility is a complement to what you already do. And if you've ever walked out of a lesson thinking, man, I just can't get them to do what I want them to. It's not you, it's not them. There's something holding you back. And so mobility is the way that we make that happen. So what good mobility looks like and what poor mobility looks like might surprise you a little bit. So I'll ask you this question. Which one of these is correct? Okay, now when I have a lesson with somebody, I usually ask them this question. Most commonly, I get the guy in blue or the guy in yellow. There's the answer to usually give. But as all professionals, we know that these are all correct. Each one of these players has had very successful careers, and they've won millions of dollars, and they've had a good time while doing it. But the thing is this. If we were to teach one of these swings to somebody else, they couldn't do it. So the art of golf instruction is to work with your students and to work with your members to find what their true swing is. You guys remember a few years back there was that Palmer swing your swing commercial that came out. And I think that's so true. Or I don't want to force somebody to do something that they can't do. So the job of the golf professional and the instructor is to get your students into the best positions that they can. And my job as a mobility specialist is to get them moving better. Now, what does poor mobility look like? All right, so you guys probably don't recognize exactly who this is. So, how many of you have had this happen? Where Mr. Haverkamp walks into the shop, and he's all frustrated, and he says, hey, I just spent $500 on this new driver, and I was promised I'd get 20 more yards, and I can't do it. I'm hitting it just the same. What's going on here? So, okay, awesome, Mr. Haverkamp, I appreciate it. I know you're frustrated. Let's see if we can work this out. So you take them down to the range, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, this is where you're starting from. There's only so many things we can do. So you change the grip a little bit, or tweak their setup, and you throw a couple Band-Aids on, you get them feeling better. At the end of the day, you're like, well, I can't fix that. And I want to change that paradigm, because there are things that we can do to fix it. So the reason you should care about mobility is it's the common denominator for all athletic movement, whether it's golf, whether it's any other sport, whether it's carrying around your kids or grandkids or taking the basket of laundry up the stairs. It doesn't change what you teach, it complements it. And what it's going to allow you to do is deliver higher value programs, increase the reputation of your facility, and make your instruction more effective. You'll build a community of golfers that truly care about improving themselves and improving their friends, and you'll allow them to play longer and spend more time at your facility, buy more clubs, attend all of your events. Now, the benefits are you're going to deliver more quality instruction. If anybody watches golf on TV, they talk all the time about how everybody has physical therapists and nutritionists and personal trainers and swing coaches and the whole gamut. And for a lot of people, they think, well, I'm not a tour pro, that's out of my reach. But there are things that we can do to educate the player that gives them that quality of instruction. When you do, you can charge more for your programs, and people are going to be happy to do so because they're going to walk away feeling better and playing better. And when they do, they're They're going to increase the number of people that they refer to you. They're going to come back time and time again, and they're going to play for longer. And the last reason that you should care is because it works. So I want to introduce a couple of case studies. I want everybody to meet Henry Morgan. Henry Morgan is 66 years young. He spent his whole life behind a desk. He's a very hard-working man, and he's just about getting ready to retire. So when Henry first came to me, he said, Blaine, I'm retiring next year. I want to drive around the country with my wife, and I want to play more golf. I want to spend more time with my kids, my grandkids, but I'm really frustrated. It's like, I'm whiffing the ball. I can't make contact. When I do, it's low, it's left. I can't get the ball in the air. I'm ready to give up. So I said, Henry, whatever you do, please don't give up. I can promise you, if you follow my program, you will get better. So, this is where Henry was before, and if any of you are TPI certified, this will make perfect sense. If not, don't worry. Red is bad, green is good. Okay, and Henry had a lot on the red side. He was very limited in his mobility. And you can see his driver head speed was just about 53 miles an hour, but he could only hit the ball about 78 yards. And what he was finding was that every club in the bag was going about the same distance. And I can see why he was so frustrated. So here is a video of Henry when we first got together. That's what we're working with. So, what did we do? Well, the first thing that I did was I taught Henry my power warm-up routine that I teach to all of my students. And that warm-up routine is designed to make your mobile joints more mobile, create stability in the stable places, and it primes your central nervous system to do what you're asking. And so I tell all my students, look, first thing in the morning, do this as a body practice. And then do it before every practice session, and before every time that you hit a golf ball. You guys are going to get to learn this routine today before we leave. After that, I gave Henry a 1-week mobility program that he performed for about 20 minutes a day, and it targeted his biggest weakness areas, his pelvic tilt, his toe touch, his seated trunk rotation, and his ability to externally rotate his shoulders. Once we got through that 1 week, and his body was starting to see some change, I wrote him a 1-month mobility program. And what the 1-month program does is it hits on 3 different areas of the body every day for about 10 to 20 minutes. And it goes through a cycle so that at the end of the month, you've hit on everything with only a couple of repeats along the way. He still does this today. Now I see Henry every week. We get together for a lesson to clean up his fundamentals. We work on the principles of the game. We talk about strategy and how to play smarter and to manage around the course. And then we tune up any of the areas in his body that look tight and restricted or that could really help with the lesson. So today, huge change. You guys can see that the red has almost all gone to yellow, and a bunch of the yellow has turned to green. And so now, Henry's swinging the club just about 85 miles an hour. I've gotten him a couple of times in the low 90s, but he's averaged about 85, and he can poke it out there about 230 or 240. And here's what he looks like. That was about 2 weeks ago. Huge difference. So Henry's quality of life has really changed thanks to golf and thanks to the mobility program. You can see some before and after pictures of his squat and his toe touch, just showing the difference, and there's massive improvement there. Now, my favorite thing is this. Out of all the things that we've made to his golf swing that have changed, the thing that's impacted his life the most is his wife says she's very happy with his ability to pelvic tilt. So, let's change the conversation a little bit. Let's go to Lance Peterson. Lance had the opposite problem. Lance is 40 years young. He's a very successful entrepreneur, but he does spend most of his time behind a desk running a business. He has 5 kids. One of them's not pictured in here. But what happened was a few years ago, Lance was in a car accident, and he lost quite a bit of muscle mass in his legs and his ability to stabilize. So Lance went through some physical therapy, and he had already drank the mobility Kool-Aid. And that's how we got together. So he found out what I did. He's like, look, I want somebody that can speak the same language. He's like, look, I can move around, no problem. I have all these greens and whatnot. And there's a couple of reds around there. He's like, look, I can swing over 100 miles an hour, but it's not going into the golf ball. So what we did with Lance was a little bit different. Here's his before. And Lance has incredible hands, and that's where most of his speed came from. Ooh. So here's Lance. I believe this is back in September or October. And very mobile, great hands, but just no power, nothing translated into the golf ball. So what we did with Lance was a little bit different. I still taught him my power warm-up routine, because again, it makes the mobile pieces more mobile, creates stability in the stable pieces, and primes the central nervous system. But what we did from there is, I gave him a 1-month power program targeting his leg and core strength. Okay, and we talked about explosive hip power and how to balance, how to create scapular stability, and started to refine those patterns. And then I wrote him a 6-week speed program. So he was getting stronger, and now it was a matter of how do we speed this up while still maintaining control. And following that, I gave him a 1-month overall performance plan that blended power with speed and mobility. And there was even a meditation practice in there, just so that he could take it out to the course and be comfortable with his new swing. Again, I see Lance every week, and we work on his fundamentals, we clean up his principles of the swing, and then we work on strategy and do anything else that we need to clean his body up. So now, we see a huge change right here. Not just, because he already had a lot of green, but you can see his driver club head speed has gone up about 10 miles an hour, but he's picked up about 70 yards, which is really, really awesome. So Lance, he's been known to poke it out at 300. This one right here was a nice power draw. It carried about 270 until it clipped a branch of a tree. Probably would have rolled out to about 300 on this one right here. Big change. We're starting to see a lot more power in his swing, more stability as well. All right, so what I want to talk about next are some best practices that I've used that I'd like you to incorporate into your facilities and your instruction programs. And the idea is, again, to build a community within your facility with your students and the trust that's going to make you a thought leader in the world of mobility and golf fitness. What you're going to need is the education side of things. Right? And that's where we're starting right now. We're learning about what this is. We're learning about why you need it. And we're already starting to paint a picture in your mind of how this can benefit. So the education side is going to be really important because it also ties into the buying side. The idea is, if you're going to sell this to your members, if you're going to sell this to your students, you need to be passionate about it. And if there's any doubt in the way that you communicate to your members and your students, they're going to sense that. But when you go in with the idea of, look, this is something new, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to improve your golf swing, but I'm also going to improve your quality of life. They're buying. And the buy-in side is a little bit different too, in the sense that if you're implementing this at a facility, you need everybody at the facility buy it. As the bag boys when they first show up, this is the food and beverage, this is the event coordinators. Everybody needs to know why this is important. Because we want everybody spending more time in the club. Tools are important. There are things that you can do without mobility tools. There's bodyweight stretches and some functional movements that you can do. But what the tool does is it just speeds the process up a little bit. So if you have a good set of tools and you know how to use them, your students and your members are going to see change quicker. And it's something like this, when they can sense change quicker, they're going to be hooked faster. And then the last one is the program of just understanding, here's what's happening. What do I do to fix it? How do I make what I tell my student match where their goals are? So a dedicated facility is nice. You don't necessarily need one. If you have a facility that already has a separate gym or fitness area, you can dedicate a portion of that space to mobility work. But at the same time, I've been very successful doing it just on the range, which is really great as well. So you don't necessarily need one. It is great though. So one of the programs that I've run is my rehab program. This is the perfect one to get people's feet wet and give them a taste about what mobility is. I run it as a 3-hour workshop, and it's usually about a 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 ratio. And what we do is start off in kind of a large group and explain what we're going to do for the day. If you have more than 6 people, it's great to have an assistant. But the idea is talk about what is mobility, why do we need it, what are you going to see a change in? And then we split into smaller groups, film everybody's swing to establish a baseline, and then everybody gets a personalized analysis of here's what you're doing in your swing, and this is probably what's causing it. After that, we get back into a large group, and everybody performs a series of mobilizations and exercises to help alleviate some of the restrictions that we were talking about earlier. And then at the end, we split back up into smaller groups. They re-swing, see the change, feel the change, and then they walk away with a program guide of all the exercises that they can continue to perform. And what's great about this is, let's just say you can charge about $200 to $300 per person for the 3-hour workshop. It's typically based on what you normally charge for a 1-hour lesson. But you'll see that your revenue is going to go up quite a bit there. So the student is probably going to save about 25–30% of what they would pay individually, and you're going to increase your per hour by about 300%. Now, once they have gotten their feet wet, I have an academy program for those that want to dive in a little bit more. Once they've done the rehab program, they want to do it. Trust me. It's a 12-week program. We meet for 1 hour a day, 2 days a week. It says 24 hours of instruction, and I'm limited to just 4 people per session. That way they get intimate, hands-on time. Again, based on what you charge per lesson, I would like to recommend charging about $1,800 to $2,700 per person. Again, it gives them about a 25–30% savings if they were to go individual. But again, you're increasing your per hour about 300%. And so I've seen massive success with both these programs. And we have some pictures of some programs that I've run, both in the CrossFit space and in the gym, in golf space as well. And so what I want to end on here is I need your guys' help. Right, we started off this presentation by saying, I want to try to change the world, and I truly believe that we as professionals of this game have the power and the influence to get people to move better, to feel better, to play better. Golf is associated with the thought leaders and the decision makers of this world, and if we can get them to understand that, hey, if I exercise more, if I take care of myself, if I put good things in, we'll get better policies, we'll get better things happening, we'll have a whole change downstream, and it might not happen right away, but that's what our job is. It's our obligation to give them the best instruction that we possibly can. So what I ask of all of you is, there's going to be a survey that comes up on your mobile app. If you wouldn't mind giving me a good review for this session, it'll go a long way in helping me go farther and spread this word to as many people as I possibly can. And if you're interested in having programs implemented at your facility, I am available for consulting. I'll help you along the entire process and kind of get the ball rolling. You guys can find me online. I put all of my information here. I have free resources. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out with techniques that you can use for yourself or with your students. It's all really great stuff. So to end, what I want to do is have everybody stand up and find a little bit of space. I've been talking about my power warm-up routine. I want to take you guys through it. It's been a long week. We've been sitting, we've been traveling, and I take to move again and see if we can feel a little bit of some difference. So first things first, I want you to take one of your hands, doesn't matter which one you start with, and grab your forearm up by your wrist. Give it a little bit of a squeeze, and then we're going to make 5 circles in one direction. We're going to do 5 circles the other direction. You can keep your fist, you can keep your hand open, you can wiggle your fingers, you can play around within that world. And then we switch sides. 5 one direction, 5 on the other. You may feel some popping, some cricking, some cracking. That's all part of the process. From there, hang on to balance if you need to. We're going to do the same thing with our feet. 5 circles to the right. And then 5 circles to the left. We'll switch feet. 5 circles in one direction. Then 5 circles the other direction. Now let's take 2 fingers from your left hand. Let's find your right collarbone. Migrate up just a couple of inches and you'll find your trap muscle. You're going to apply a little bit of pressure. Where you apply that pressure doesn't necessarily matter. It's going to change every time that you do this. But we apply a little bit of pressure on the trap and we perform 5 arm circles backwards, 5 arm circles forwards. You again may feel some stuff moving around, popping and grinding. That's a good thing. Remember the upper cross syndrome we were talking about? This is alleviating that. Let's switch sides. A couple fingers on the other shoulder. 5 backwards. And then 5 forwards. All right, now for the next one, to hit on the shoulders a little bit more. I borrowed this concept from what physical therapists call proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. I call it power stretching. It's a lot easier to communicate. And the idea is you put power in and get power out. Take your right arm and reach across your body. Whether it's down here in the middle or up top doesn't necessarily matter, because it's not about the arm, it's about the shoulder. Each time we change the arm, it reorients the shoulder. Take your opposite hand and grab on it. We're going to hold it in place. The arm that's straight out in front of you is going to try to push away from your body. But the hand hooked on won't let it go anywhere. And you'll probably start to feel your shoulder tingle. That's a good thing. We hold this for a few seconds, and then we switch sides. We're going to do this until we accumulate at least 30 seconds per side. And you can play around with straight across. You can come up. You can come down. We're doing 30 seconds per side, and it starts to activate that shoulder. While we're talking about the shoulders, take your arm and place it behind your head. Whether you grab your hand, your wrist, your forearm, your elbow, doesn't matter. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. But the idea now is take the elbow and drive it up and lean the opposite way. So my right elbow is being driven up, so I'm leaning left. I get a big stretch from the right elbow all the way down to my head. Again, we're going to accumulate 30 seconds. And then we can relax, switch sides, drive the opposite elbow up, and lean to the side. Now, front of the chest, pectorals, shoulders. Arms are going to come up in front of you. They're going to pull down, and the hands are going to flip back at the bottom. The only thing I ask here is don't let your chest collapse when you do so. And it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be fast. We're going to do about 10 of these. When you do that, we're going to feel a little tug in the front of the shoulder. Again, that's a very good thing. All right, so let's get the spine started to move. I want everybody to stand with your feet underneath your hips. I want you to then bump your hips over to one side and then twist into that side. This is somewhat like a backswing in golf if you're doing your right leg, or a downswing on the left leg, but we're keeping our legs straight. And you'll probably feel a stretch across the front of your hip down toward the knee. That's great. That's what we want to feel. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to perform some drum twists. But each time I twist, I'm going to plant my leg and twist into it. So I'm getting the rotation of my thoracic spine, and I'm also getting a stretch in my hip flexors as well. So we're killing two birds with one stone here. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, you could always do a bent over. I know that's going to be hard today with the desk in front of us, so we can save that one for when we're back home. Now, to continue with the hips, you may need to hold on to something for balance, because this is where the central nervous system starts to come in, but we're also going to work on the hip flexors. We take one leg, bring it straight up, and we give it a little bit of a tug. It then goes behind us, and we drop down and twist toward the bent leg. And when you do this, keeping your back leg straight, keeping your glutes turned on, you'll feel a little stretch in the front of your hips. We're going to do this about 3 or 4 times per side. So it's going to look, I'll do it from the side here. Leg comes up and grab, goes then back with a twist. Going to take your time with it. For a lot of people, this is really testing the balance, but at the same time, we want our balance system turned on, so when we go to hit a golf ball, we can stay right where we need to be and find the sweet spot more often. Then we switch sides. This one, by the way, even outside of this warm-up routine, you can't do enough of it. The hip flexors are chronically tight, and for most of us, it's going to take multiple sessions, but it is well worth the effort. Now, last one is this. We're going to do a side lunge. One leg is straight, one leg is bent. It doesn't have to be anywhere near the range that I'm achieving here. The straight leg, though, that's the key. I want you to take that straight leg and try to push it through the ground, but you're not allowed to use your hands. And when you do that, you're going to feel all sorts of wonderful goodness starting to fire up. And then we switch sides. And we push the other straight leg down through the ground. Again, accumulating about 30 seconds per side. When we're done, we stand up. Our body's been reset. Our pelvis should be feeling like it's tucked under. Our shoulders should feel back. Our sense of balance, we're awake. And this primes our body. If you do this first thing in the morning, if you do this before you hit a golf ball, that first shot is going to be unbelievable. You're like, whoa, what happened? I haven't even swung yet, but my body already feels like I hit a whole bucket. And that's exactly what we want to accomplish. So everybody, I thank you so much for coming out today. I'll be sticking around if anybody has any questions. Enjoy your time here in Las Vegas. And please check out all my information online, subscribe to my newsletter, and a great review would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.